Let's get going. Top of the morning. This is Pixie. Another quick vid. Let's see. Yeah, I was in discussion last night, and basically about the 12 monkeys. There was like something happened with a group of monkeys on an island where the same species was cut off from the other species group. So there's two different test groups, A and B, and B didn't have the treatment, and A, no, it wasn't a treatment. It was learnt some new skills with a tool, and group A did, but both groups learnt at the same time. So there was the theory of quantum entanglement, because they share a collective consciousness. I was in a discussion, I just have something I mentioned to, I was having a chat with my mum actually, and there was things, there's other debates like, why does cannabis or another medicinal type plant, why does it have these qualities about it that don't actually tie in with biology? So this is why I don't ever favour Darwinism, because basically it created what happened with Nazism and also other strange things around eugenics and bloodline superiority and stuff like that, when it's more in the energetic spectrum. It's an area where it hasn't been measured because it doesn't fit into a main understanding of science. I mean, it's a bit like with Newton and this the fallen apple. It's the force influences upon something, and then so it was stated that it must be magnetism, or it must be. Well, you have to understand, it's like a child looking at magnetism. At the time, it wasn't fully understood. So how could basically we know that an apple isn't magnetic. If a magnet next to it, it won't be drawn to it, and I don't know any powerful enough magnet would pull an apple. So it doesn't use magnetism in the function, that kind of function. So yeah, going back to THC within cannabis, it doesn't really make. I mean, cannabis does benefit animals. They can chew it. It does have some stuff that's good for IBS and so on, but it doesn't explain why it would create something that has the medicinal effect in that sort of into nature, not unless it was trying to have a symbiotic relationship in some way. And if it operates to feed the being, then the being takes care of it. I think that's the idea. But you'd expect it to just be interested in chewing its leaves rather than devouring the whole plant or taking its bud or whatever. And also, cannabis is an older plant. It must be, because or maybe it's a new plant. Sort of thing. Yeah, I mean, there's talk that basically sexes on the planet were just one at one point, and they've then divided. A lot of this transgenic movement was actually a reversal. It's a de-evolution, really, because why evolve into a female and a male and then want to say, no, that's wrong, that's just be a male-female or something, or whatever they want to call themselves at the time. And it's not me being unsympathetic to people that have a type of sexuality or whatever they do have that makes them want to go down a particular path. That's personal choice, and we'll have to do that. Modify yourself or do what you want really with yourself. However, the mould, you'll always be a female and male. What you're born as, that'll always be a part of you. I mean, even if it represents a part of trauma to you in some way, it's a part of you, because if it didn't exist, you wouldn't have made the choice. It's like learning martial arts because you were bullied at school. You wouldn't have without the reason, you wouldn't have become what you've become. However, once you've become what you become, you don't need to hang on to the reason why. It's just a part of who you are, though. It's just a consideration. And anyway, back to cannabis. It can. I've explained the sexuality of cannabis. It can be a hermaphrodite, or it can be male, or it can be female. And that's why I've mentioned it would possibly a newer species in the kind of where it's come from. Maybe it's come from somewhere else completely together. It's alien. It does have a lot of leaves, and that sometimes states the dimension. A bit like we've got 5 fingers. Well, we've got 5 digits. We've got thumb and 4 fingers to a hand, and that's maybe representative of the 5th dimension. And then also, I think you can probably figure out about 5 different elements in the human body and other things, other ratios of 5 that are written there. And that's why I believe our actual galaxies actually 5 tendrils. There's some legend in the past about it being the heads of a dragon. I think it's probably reptilian culture there. But not all the heads get along with each other. That's why they're spread out. And that's why you get cycles of in the star systems of more masculine or more feminine, or science, or, nature, different aspects of a godhead, really. So yeah. So that's one side of things. And with the back to the 12 monkeys as well, things that have developed certain abilities, like the toads developed poisonous skin. It's not from trial and error. So eventually, once he was poisonous, if he survived, then he could become even more poisonous on the next generation. That's great. That's like a mathematical answer to, with enough potential variables, a chance of success are increased. That kind of thinking. But what's actually happened is that one of them got eaten, and at some level it's gone into this more collective consciousness. So there's probably at different levels. So we may actually share consciousness with other beings at some point. I mean, I don't think we share it with apes. Possibly we share it with some alien DNA. I mean, we might apes, but I think if that was true, every time we evolve or become more technical, chimpanzees and so on should be developing new skills as well, or have a sort of subconscious level. They'd have the skills, but some people are just good at making things. That's because they've made things in the past, or they're more in tune with that in their consciousness, like a skill set. They might not even use it, like some people are natural musicians, and like sometimes I tap out a little beat, but I don't really, not really into sort of so much instruments. It's more of just something that comes to the mind, you just tap away. So beings have developed these abilities, and it's either that they started out with them originally anyway, which suggests that they've been well designed, or that something's learned so much information to sort of change the design. The other possibility is that they're a process of they've evolved, but it's consciousness based. So strongly I'd say Darwin never had an understanding of that. I feel that probably researchers, their assistant, did most of the work for him, and it was just because he employed him, it's up for him to take whatever he had forward and put out his own ideas on it. But Darwin's belief is that any creature could become another creature with enough time. But that's he believed through physical evolution. The body does have its own intelligence system. But I think most things occur in the energetic spectrum of what evolution is. So yeah. There's some other stuff I want to mention as well. I think there's a lot more activity with interdimensionals and that kind of thing, or whatever they could come under. Well, it's non-physical entities really, because they don't, but they do composite. They have the ability to create a force or create a sort of light touch. So a sort of what I call kinetic forces or something. Yeah, basically, I was asleep last week, and I'd been doing some sorting out in my flat and piled up some stuff, and it basically just ordered the layout slightly. It was about 4 in the afternoon. It was getting dark in the UK, and so I fell asleep for probably about half an hour, 20 minutes, something like that. And then I woke up, and I woke up and looked sort of in this sort of day state across the room, and then I just heard something. Basically, in this pile, there was a movement in there. So the only thing we've done that would be if there was a creature in there, but there's no creatures in my flat. I thought that earlier, and I put a mouse trap, and it hasn't been touched. There's some meat on it, it hasn't been touched. It's been there for like a month. So there's plenty of opportunity for a curious animal to poke around with it, or even have eaten some of it. Nothing's happened. So yeah, so I heard this movement. It wasn't just like once, I say, rolled off. It was twice the movement. Now I can't think, because I didn't move from that chair. I didn't generate any kind of ripple effect or anything. I didn't like get up and get down, or there was no sort of movement that would generate some vibration. Could be that I was snoring, something was observing me, and then when I woke up, I looked straight towards it, and it slightly startled. But to cause an actual movement within a pile of items would mean that the entity has some type of electromagnetic mass or something. It has something there. On a couple of occasions I've had what you call like a sort of Bigfoot type channeling type thing. Just had this being that I could see in my mind, and it had a sort of some just because it looks ape, I would say it is ape. Yeah, about his face and like flowers in his hair and stuff. There's like different things with females and males. And so I come home and I noticed there was just like foul smell. And I thought, what's happening? To my toilet leaking? What's this funny smell? And so I actually put a lot of bleach in the toilet, so it sort of like flooded out the place with bleach. And then later that evening I sat down and I was on my laptop, and let's look at some emergency vehicle coming down. Don't think I can do anything outside. Yeah, so I noticed this massive shadow. I was a little uncomfortable because it was double the size of me. It just and it's usually for like half a second. It's a really sort of short period of time, but it's just only could be my eyes adjusting. But it wasn't. The light source was the same. It was just the kitchen's darker, and it's what I saw more in the corner of my eye that basically had something that was probably twice as wide with me, and 6'2", maybe 6'3". So it's taller than me. I'm 6'1", so it was the top of the frame of where the kitchen is. I think if it actually morphed into a physical mass, it would certainly find it difficult being on my flat. It's just too wide. I mean, it's twice the wide of the width of the doorway. It's sort of like 1.5 or something. Why would an entity be interested in what's in my kitchen? Well, I've got a number of different potions I've made of ormus, and they've tweaked them and added things to them. Is there anything else in there that's on that spiritual spectrum? Well, I've got a lot of orgone that I've created, and that uses things like pine cones, natural sources in there, and I've used stuff. I've used stones. I've got some more rare stones. I think there's particular things they do like, Bigfoot, and also clay as well. Started using clay in different things. So I've got that doll that you would have seen in my videos. That's basically virtually complete, really, unless I jazz it up a little bit. But it's all gone, and it's got some other bits in it, and crystals that have kind of created its, given it a consciousness. So it's basically gave it chakras. It's got the Mary in its heart and the Mary in its head, and it's also got the crystals on its body, and crystals have a sense of consciousness. I showed it to a client actually, because I said about I made stuff, and said, "Oh, you should show me, you should show me." I showed him, and there's this other bloke who's freaked out by dolls. And at first he was a bit hesitant, because I think I just put it in there, and he overheard that I had this doll. And so he walked to the room, sat down, and he said, "Oh," he looked at it, he said, "Oh, that's quite nice actually." And there was a kind of a weird attraction to it. It was like a reverse. He says, "It's not like other dolls, I find it quite pleasant to look at." So it's interesting that it had an effect. A calming effect, maybe it was a healing effect on it. It wasn't created with any dark intentions. So that's yeah, it's quite freaky when you see lots of these large entities. So I don't know though that foul smell if it was it was like a Bigfoot like thing. Yes. So I don't really notice it too much. It was a bit pungent, but it didn't smell like me. It smelled like something that's real rotten slightly. As usual, the usual smell. There's nothing really else I can think of to share with you guys at the moment. I'm just trying to look for my collective mind of consciousness. So yeah, I think there's definitely, like I say, I mentioned about collective consciousness. Maybe a lot of what we're picking up is with aliens and so on, it's just that consciousness connection. It's like the hologram. And it's also picking up, and if there is a Planet X, maybe there's lots of dimensional things happening. So we think of planets as physical, but there may be some more interdimensional stuff, and planets that shift between each of these arms I mentioned about the spiral galaxy. So you have planets like, I think they're called dragon's pearls actually, in a reptilian culture. They're planets that have shifted from one arm to the next because they've kind of pinged off and they've drifted into another, or maybe they resonate with a different frequency to that arm of the galaxy. So but these rogue planets can cause a lot of trouble as well. So like playing billiards, to turn up and right, I'm going to stay in this solar system, or this system, you know, pattern or whatever it might be, that panda strapped other planets. Stuff like that. Anyway, this is Piggy sign off. Great to speak to you and speak to you soon.